And unfortunately, they've got to be used together, so
Perfect.
So the oh no, you're good. You're good. You're good. Yeah, you're good.
that is for us. Okay. Press and hold this button. Okay. Makes this hot. That's for this. Okay. Okay.
So it's. eh, Cannot read cursive. I'm trying to read this cursive.
It says on behalf of the Board of Trustees at Limestone University, our president, Dr. Monica Reynolds, the administration faculty and staff at Limestone. Bro, if not, then just write it down to your own hand, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I cannot read this. Check, check, check. How y'all doing today? May I have your attention? On behalf of the Board of Trustees at Limestone University, the President, Dr. Monica Beloga, the administration, faculty, and staff welcome you all to Limestone University. Greetings, everyone. It is a pleasure to have you all here this afternoon at the Black History Month celebration, Dr. M.L. Annette Reynolds Day. I hope you all enjoyed your meals at the dining hall. Was it good? It was good? Okay. I like to hear. My name is Andrew Love, and I'm going to tell you all a little bit about me before we get started. I'm a freshman business marketing major here at Limestone University. I am part of the men's cross country and track team, and I am also part of the Real Men Lead program. In addition, I serve as a supplemental instruction leader here at Limestone University. We gotta do it this way. We have a handful of speakers and performers for y'all today. First, we have Miss Trinity Downs, who is an Adama participant, coming up to do a prayer. Following that, we have Professor Liza Glean coming up to deliver a scripture. And after that, we will have a lovely performance from the Limestone University Choir Group. Following that, we will have the Gaffney City officials give us a brief proclamation. After that, Miss Skylar Jackson, who is a part of the Black Student Union, will give us an introduction for Dr. Reynolds. Coming up after that, the Black Student Union Ensemble will do a performance piece for y'all. Following that, we will have our speaker, Limestone University alumni, Dr. Annette Reynolds. After that, Dr. Annette Reynolds' speech, we will have a Q&A with Dr. Ross. Annette. After that, we will have acknowledgements from the Limestone University President, Dr. Monica Beloga, the Mayor of Gaffney, Dr. Randy Moss, and the directors of this program, Ms. Tawana L. Scott and Dr. William Ross. Again, thank you guys for all coming, and will you guys help me please introduce Ms. Trinity Downs.
Hello, everyone. Can y'all hear me? I'll just ask everybody to bow their heads and close their eyes for me, please. Lord, thank you for gathering us here on this beautiful Monday, giving us the opportunity to hear Dr. Reynolds speak to us. Give us the strength and the honor to create new beginnings and create equality and spread it throughout the campus. I want to ask for you to focus us to focus on the bigger picture and spread love around the campus. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
I feel the Lord in here now. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Now, will you guys please help me recognize Professor Liza Glean? Will help me bring her up, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I will be reading for your hearing Proverbs 31 chapter, verses 10 through 31. Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant's ships. She bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field, and buyeth it, with the fruit of her hands, as she planteth a vineyard. She girdeth her loins with strength, and strengthened her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor. She reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for her household are all clothed with scarlet. She maketh herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the wave of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, as he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. May each one of you be blessed for hearing these words.
Thank you for that. Next, we are going to have the Limestone University Choir, the lovely piece. Y'all look great.
Water, viunde yote, owaye yote, sifu Mungu. Water, viunde yote, owaye yote, sifu Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Sauti imbeni, viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu na mfalme wetu. Viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu na mfalme wetu. Pazeni sauti ili nasi mwembe. Pazeni sauti ili nasi mwembe. Watu wote, viumbe vyote yote, viumbe vyote, waye yote, sifu Mungu. Now flowing water pure and clear, make music for our Lord to hear. Now first a master full and bright, that giveth light both warmth and light. Viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu, viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu, pazeni sauti, pazeni sauti, tusifu Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Imbeni, imbeni. Pazeni sauti, imbeni. Viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu, na mfalme wetu. Viumbe vyote vya Mungu wetu, na mfalme wetu. Pazeni sauti, ili nasi mwende. Pazeni sauti, ili nasi mwende. Watu wote, viumbe vyote, waye yote, sifu Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Tusifu Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Oh, sifuni Mungu. Tusifu Mungu. Pazeni sauti yote, imbeni. Oh, sifuni Mungu.
Could we get another round of applause for the chorus? At this time, I'd like to introduce the Gaffney city officials.
Thank you. I'm not Gaffney City official. I'm standing in for Dr. Randy Moss, who serves as the mayor of the city of Gaffney. Earlier during lunch, Mayor Moss, Dr. Moss, presented to Dr. Reynolds a proclamation and a key to the city of Gaffney, South Carolina. And I would like to present the proclamation again and read it to you all. Dr. Reynolds. Whereas Dr. M.L. Annette Reynolds is a true groundbreaker in racial equity, and Dr. Reynolds has the distinction of being the very first African-American student and graduate of Limestone University, formerly Limestone College, in the year 1970. And whereas Annette Reynolds graduated from Limestone with a Bachelor of Science degree in Home Economics and a distinguished career at Clemson University Extension Center, beginning as a 4-H agent in 1970, and whereas Annette Reynolds would go on to earn her Master of Education degree from South Carolina State University and received an honorary doctorate of public service degree from Limestone University in December of 2020. Whereas Annette Reynolds, along with her 30-year career with the Extension Center, worked with Babbitt Women's movement as a survivor of domestic violence herself. Survivors helped establish shelter programs all over the United States, and she authored a book on the experience entitled Survivors Thrive. And whereas Annette Reynolds is to be congratulated and recognized for her groundbreaking spirit and her many successes and accomplishments
And whereas therefore, I, Dr. Randy Moss, Mayor of the City of Gaffney, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby honor Dr. M.L. Annette Reynolds for the positive impact of her life and her works, and declare today, February 27, 2023, as Dr. M.L. Annette Reynolds Day. Please join me as we congratulate and thank Dr. Reynolds.
At this time, if you guys could please help me introduce our speaker for Dr. Annette Reynolds, Ms. Skylar Jackson.
Can y'all hear me? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. We appreciate you all for coming out today. Today, I will be reading the bio of an esteemed guest. A member of the class of 1970, M.L. Annette Reynolds will receive an honorary doctoral degree in public service. Reynolds, who resides in Florence, graduated from Limestone with a Bachelor of Science degree in home economics. As a groundbreaker in the area of racial equality, Reynolds has the distinction of being the first African-American student and graduate of Limestone. She will go on to earn her Master's of Education degree from South Carolina State University. Reynolds had a 30-year career with the Clemson University Extension Service, beginning as an 4-H agent in 1970. She retired as cluster director of Beaufort Coalition and Jasper counties in 2000. Along with her career, the Extension Service, Reynolds worked in the battered women's movement as a survivor of domestic violence. Survivors helped establish shelter programs all over the United States, and she wrote a book about it entitled Survivors Thrive. She has now authored 2 books and is currently working on her 3rd. Limestone recently established the M.L. Annette Reynolds Endowment Fund, which will provide programmatic and student support for its diverse student body. Thank you.
Before we hear from Ms. Reynolds, next on the program, our student-led choir, gospel ensemble, and I'm dying to hear that are representatives of the Black student community. After which we will hear from Dr. Reynolds.
is to our God. Every praise is to our God.
God, my Savior, God, my healer, God, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Yes, He is.
God, my Savior, God, my healer, God, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. God, my Savior, God, my healer, God, my deliverer. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Yes, He is. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Every praise, 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 every praise is to our God.
At this time, could I please get a standing ovation for the one and only Dr. Annette Reynolds?
Is this still something that we have to have? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Can y'all hear me? Okay. It hasn't been long ago, and has been happening for most of my life. Did I get a phone call and somebody would say, "Can I speak to your mama?" So I need a mic. So I just want to make sure y'all can hear me. And in my old age, I need glasses. Faculty, staff, and students, visitors, I want to thank the Office of Equity and Inclusion and Ms. Scott for inviting me to speak at this auspicious occasion. On December 5th, 2020, as y'all have heard, I was humbled to receive an honorary Doctor of Public Service from storied Limestone College, and even more pleased with the endowment for diversity. If we give to this endowment, it means that there will be more money for students of diversity here at the college, and they can reach their dreams like I did. I entered Limestone College in August of 1968. So let me remind some of you and teach some of you some historical facts about 1968, which was 54 years ago. You may have heard, it may be hard for some of you to imagine segregated restaurants that only served blacks out of the back door, if at all. And the food served out of the back door could cost more than the food served inside the restaurant. There were whites-only restaurants, as well as restaurants owned and operated by blacks for blacks. Most, if not all, restaurants in Gaffney were segregated, as was the case all over America. Separate but equal was, after all, the law of the land. The problem was we were separate but not equal. Earlier, U.S. Marshals had to escort 6-year-old Ruby Bridges when she integrated an elementary school in New Orleans. She faced
throngs of angry white protesters restrained by barricades. Most white parents pull their children out of school in protest. It's important to note that I said most because not all. Some white parents crossed the picket line of a mob and a white teacher stayed to teach. All I had to do was make a phone call, complete and return an application. I knew nothing about Gaffney, having moved here with my husband. My father-in-law suggested Limestone as an alternative to South Carolina State College, aware that there were no black students in attendance. Had I known there were no black students in attendance, I would have been wary, having witnessed law enforcement officers' overreaction to students protesting a segregated bowling alley. On February 8, 1968, 30 college students were wounded, shot in the back and sides. One was paralyzed for life, and 3 died in the Orangeburg Massacre at South Carolina State College. All lives matter. However, on that night, black lives did not matter. The state troopers were armed with 00 buckshot and 12-gauge shotguns, 38 and 357 Magnum pistol carriages, and 30 caliber M1A1 surplus war carbines. I know nothing about ammunition. However, I understand all this ammunition was designed to kill large animals like deer. My father-in-law was making a joke at my expense. After I received my acceptance letter, I walked the easy 2 miles to campus, moving absolutely impossible to the inevitable. When I arrived, I didn't see any black people, but a student asked if she could help. I had limited financial resources of my own and a small child. We chatted amicably as we walked to the financial aid office. No U.S. Marshals needed, and I felt welcome. There were only a couple of times I didn't feel welcome, and those minor episodes were reported by students. Then administration made positive adjustments. Attending Limestone proved first a culture shock and then a culture shift for me. I didn't know this was something I could not do. I didn't know my husband thought an MRS degree was sufficient. I didn't know he would become abusive. I didn't know I would divorce and raise my son as a single parent. I didn't know I would retire after a 30-year career that I loved. I didn't know I would help start a shelter for battered women and children. And I say help start it because any accolades for that volunteer work belongs to the formerly battered women I worked alongside. If you want to know more about the challenge of domestic abuse, I've written a historical fiction book about it, Survivors Thrive, and I have one with me. I didn't know I would be the first black graduate of esteemed Limestone College. I didn't know we were making history. Even if you hit bumps, bruises, and roadblocks in your life path, I want you to remember I am proof that an ordinary person can be traumatized by seeing unarmed friends shot and killed, victimized by domestic violence, marginalized by being female, and today, demonized, dehumanized, and or stigmatized because of culture. And still, you can and must rise. But not only rise, you must recognize though racism is alive and well, there's the other tradition of race amity in this country. We are, after all, one race, the human race. Recognize high character, no matter what culture a person comes from. Racism is America's most challenging issue, and it is not a black challenge, nor a white challenge. The human race must promote race amity. Blacks and whites must judge people by their character instead of skin color. Logically and artistically, skin color is really shades and tints of brown, not black and white. Racism is the most challenging issue we face because it is ingrained, institutionalized, systemic, illogical, and difficult, but not impossible to change. We can move from the impossible to the inevitable. Let me remind you of some work being done to effect change promoting race unity. Abolitionists fought for the freedom of the enslaved. Quakers educated the newly freed men, women, and children. And there were famous friendships. Booker T. Washington and Julius Rosenwald built schools for blacks. Eleanor Roosevelt and Mary McLeod Bethune worked together. Mary McLeod Bethune was born in South Carolina. Satima Clark and Miles Horton co-founded the citizenship schools that prepared disenfranchised black voters to read and write. Satima Clark was born in South Carolina. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rabbi Abraham J. Herschel worked together. James Farmer and George Hauser were among the founders of the Congress of Racial Equality, called CORE. Other organizations with a diversity approach include, but are not limited to, the NAACP, National Urban League, and the Commission on Interracial Cooperation. Closer to home for me, I grew up in a segregated South Carolina. My father opened a television repair shop. We repaired TVs in people's homes. In one of those homes, I met a Polish girl, my age, who was a majorette at her high school. I was a majorette at my high school, and we started talking. She invited me to go to a baton twirling school with her, but segregation would not let that happen. Instead, she and her father would come to the radio TV shop. She and I would go in the backyard and practice baton twirling. The front door to the shop was accessible to customers, and the back door led to our backyard that was enclosed by a 6-foot fence. This careful safety arrangement was lost on me. We had no idea my learning to twirl from her would lead to a band scholarship at South Carolina State College, the first band scholarship earned by a majorette. I had no idea the band's name would be changed the year I entered college from the Marching 100 to the Marching 101. With me as the only majorette, because I could twirl, it is still widely believed that I was the one in the 101. Now, my son loves that story, and he's a little bigger now. Stand up. Stand up. At the Gaffney's Visitor Center, I understand there's an exhibit titled 1968, a year that shook the nation. In 1968, Limestone took the initiative to admit African Americans and took an extra step to make them feel welcome. When you see something and think somebody needs to do something, remember you are somebody, and take that extra step to be that change. When you get to a roadblock, go over it, under it, or around it, but keep going. Then you can see the chain of successes that make the formerly impossible move to the inevitable. I'll leave you with a quote from the Baha'i writings. The betterment of the world can be accomplished through pure and goodly deeds, through commendable and seemly conduct. Our deeds, our conduct. Could that be high character? Now I'm told y'all want to have a question and answer period, and we'll see if I have any answers.
Okay, we have mics. Any questions? I like the 101 story. Questions, young people?
All people too.
People.
So, Dr. Reynolds, can you talk to us a little bit about how it felt to be the first African-American student in an aggregation of students that you didn't necessarily look like, or you didn't, you didn't fit in that area? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. So when I first entered my classes, all the white people looked like white people, just one mass of people, and I could not differentiate. It took a little while for me to work on differentiating individual people. That's why I said it was a culture shock, and then it became a culture shift. That said, I never met anybody on campus for as long as I was here that was not helpful. There could have been people who didn't want me here, but if there were, I did not meet any of them. What it felt like was people around me making sure I was okay. And it wasn't just the students, it was from the administration down and the students up. So when a teacher who shall remain unnamed decided that I would sit out in the hall, the students reported it, and the administration corrected it. When another teacher that should remain unnamed said that he didn't have room in his class for me, the students reported it. And suddenly, he had room in his class for me. I said racism is alive and well. Sure it is. But it affects both blacks and whites. It's not just a white problem, not just a black problem. It's everybody's problem. And remember, we are a human race. There's culture, differences in culture, yeah. But we are one human race on this planet Earth. Got one over here.
Did you happen to live on campus, or did you, like at any time, did you move on to campus?
I did not live on campus. I was married with a small child. I commuted because of that, not because Limestone wouldn't have let me live on campus. As a home economics student at the time, the home economics program is no longer here. It ended in '72. There was a 6 or 8 week period when we had to live in a house and run the house, learn how to run the house. And I had a room in that house because I was a student. I didn't use the room most of the time because of the fact that I was bringing my little child with me. But no, I didn't live on campus. I could have. And my senior year, 3 people lived on campus. 3 African-American girls lived on campus. Single girls lived on campus. I thought I saw a hand on this side.
Okay, so when you were in situations where you were being discriminated against, did you feel negative emotions like relating to anger? And if so, how did you deal with them?
Honestly, at Limestone, I never felt angry because there were so many people doing all they could to make me feel welcome and to help me. What made me angry was the massacre at State College. I was very angry about that. And did I bring it up? My bag. So when the massacre happened, it was called a riot. It was said that those students had rioted. I was not standing where the people that got shot were standing. I was watching it, and it was called a riot. And some people still think it was a riot, but if you have trouble believing it was a massacre, there's a book, Orangeburg Massacre by Jack Black. Jack Bass. He did all the research, and it wasn't called a massacre until a white man said it was a massacre. So I brought a copy of that book. And I said I had a copy of mine too. But yeah, I did not feel angry the whole time I was at Limestone. Y'all also heard that I am a survivor and a thriver of domestic violence. And I think I was very angry about that. Did I see a hand over here?
Going to a school filled with white people, how did your past friends, when you were going to Limestone, how did they feel about you going to an all-white school and you were being the only black person?
Most of my friends were also home economics majors. And so one young lady, Diane Pettit, was coming to class twice a week, and she would pick me up and bring me because she was passing my house anyway. Eventually, one of the community members actually hired a cab to transport me back and forth. The black community was watching Limestone, and they didn't want me walking in the white neighborhood at the time. So the students around me were very friendly, very helpful. I felt like I was an ordinary student. I didn't feel like I was any different from any other student. I didn't feel like any of the teachers gave me any breaks, but I did feel like some of the teachers and some of the subjects, the teacher had to work with me because it wasn't my best subject. Microbiology. Amen. But there was a teacher here, Dr. Agnew, and somebody might remember Dr. Agnew, but anyway, she was a science chemistry teacher. And we had this book. This book was like yay thick, and it had onion skin pages. Dr. Agnew said, you can go as far in the book as you understand. You don't have to finish the book. You just have to know as far as you can understand in that book. So if you ever want to go back to that book, you'll pick up where you left off and go forward. And I got a B. I did 3 chapters. So, I mean, she wasn't doing that because I was in the class. She said that to the whole class. When I went to chemistry lab, my partner was Pam, and Pam's father was a scientist. They put me with Pam because my father wasn't a scientist. And that was very helpful for both of us. She got to teach because I need a lot of teaching. You said any kind of biology, any kind of chemistry, yes. But what I did learn in chem lab was how to bend glass. I'm the best glass bender y'all have. Got one there too.
With you being on the campus, then how does it feel for you to come back and see everything that's built up now?
And that was one of the questions I was going to ask before Dr. Reynolds answered that question. We were going to take a tour of the campus, and we didn't have time because some people ate lunch. Me in particular stayed over for the lunch. So I don't know if she has seen the entire campus, but having put that footnote there, hopefully we'll be able to take that tour if the weather permits before you leave.
I came in, well, no, in 2020, we went to the stadium. My son and I came when they established the museum because they asked if they could use my picture. And I did see some of the campus then. Oh yeah, I look a little younger, you know. You might not recognize it. I did see some of the campus then. I haven't seen all of it, but it sure is built up. What I remember best is I lived on Rutledge Avenue, and I walked from Rutledge Avenue to College Avenue to get here. So as I was driving in, This is what I remember best. And that little parking area, it hadn't got any bigger. The building we're in now was not here. The building with the columns, the white building with the columns was here. And I believe the cafeteria was in that building. The building to the right of this building is where the homemaking department was. So this, and my son and I remember where the museum was because we came, I don't know what year that was. 1919, 1920? 2019. Thank you. Needed that. I'm a senior citizen. And I recognize that building, but I mean, it has grown. Not only has the campus grown, there are satellite campuses just about everywhere. And when this program was announced, I got a contact from a young lady in Florence who says she can attend Limestone online totally. She doesn't have to come to the campus. She's in Florence. She was going to find out if it was being, what? Streaming. That's the word, streaming. Hello. So Limestone has grown as a campus, and it's grown all over, at least South Carolina, because I know there's satellite in Florence. I believe there's one in Beaufort. There's one in Aiken, Greenville. Okay. I don't know many colleges that have satellites all over the place. In fact, we're talking about inclusion and equity. I don't know. Okay, so we call colleges that were formerly black colleges HBCUs. I don't know many colleges that were formerly white colleges where you will see as many African Americans as I'm looking at. Now see, y'all can think whatever y'all want to think about what it was like when I was here. I maintain that Limestone wants to be on the right side of history. Now, racism still exists, yes, but I maintain if you can get on the right side of history, you're doing good. You had a question over here.
I think you may have, I think you may have just answered my question, but for our students, do you have any words of inspiration or suggestions or advice how they can strive to be the first, considering some of the first that you've accomplished as well?
Do the work. So while you go on to the next person, so my husband said an MRS degree was all I needed. Yeah, right. Okay. And I was willing to walk. I was willing to walk to school. 2 miles wasn't a lot. I mean, I was in shape. I was a majorette. I was a twirler. I was a gymnast. I got a ride, yes, a cab, but I was willing to walk with a baby bag, with books. And I was willing to finish. So do the work, whatever the work is. You got to be willing.
Also, while we're getting ready for that, when you get a chance, if you'll introduce your guest after we finish with.
Okay, and there's a student over here that wants to talk to. Go ahead, Pat.
Dr. Reynolds, I think it might be important and interesting. For people to know a little bit about
Okay. Okay, so in Darlington, we in the is it on? Okay. We were in a segregated neighborhood. Everybody knew everybody. It seemed like everybody knew everybody. And says my high school classmate, it seemed like everybody knew everybody. And I do remember, I think I was in 10th grade, there was this place called the Chicken Shack, and it had a jukebox, and it was a restaurant, had hot dogs and hamburgers. I'll tell you something else it had later. But the kids would go to this place after school. But I had a real strict household. My parents were real strict, and I knew I was not supposed to be going there. But for some reason, I decided to get in a car, which I wasn't supposed to do, and go out to the Chicken Shack with the rest of my friends. And I was in the Chicken Shack maybe 10 minutes when my daddy rolled up in the parking lot. And of course, I just ran on out to the parking lot and met him. I didn't want to be embarrassed anymore. And it was years before I found out the lady that owned the Chicken Shack lived down the street from me. As soon as I walked in the door, she called my daddy. So, to answer your question, both my parents were teachers before my father opened his own business and became an entrepreneur. And he had 2 businesses. Both of my grandmamas were teachers. One of my grandfathers was a Methodist minister, and one of my grandfathers was an entrepreneur. He left a 400-acre farm to the family. So education was extremely important in my family. And I got raised thinking I was supposed to graduate college. So when somebody said, you got an MRS degree and that's enough, I was like, really? I don't think so. Then I came to Limestone, and Mr. Pasco was the financial aid director. So with grants, scholarships, and work study, I was able to go to school here. And you think I'm going to quit? No. I was on scholarship at South Carolina State also. So growing up in Darlington, everybody knew everybody, like my friend said, and everybody knew everybody's business. And everybody was saying, you need an education. Education is the way out. Y'all stay in school. If you don't want to finish Limestone, finish something. You have to get something past high school if you want to be successful, if you want to have some kind of lifestyle. Now, I don't know how many athletes are in here. And if there's some athletes in here and you want to go to the NFL or the NBA, that's all well and good. Have a plan B, C, and D. My son was an athlete, or is. And I enjoy watching him play basketball. Football, not so much. But I said to him, have a plan B, C, and D if you're an athlete. Or if you want to be anything that's really difficult, have a plan B, C, and D. Because you can live a good life, you can live a good living if you have education, if you have some kind of skill. Whether or not you are a millionaire, that's something else again. Honestly, I'm fine. I don't care to have to be a millionaire. Now, if I can be, that's fine. But if I can be, that's fine too, because as long as I can pay my bills, I'm good. But somebody put on Facebook, somebody that's in the room, but I'm not going to call their name, put on Facebook that I was it balling? Or what was the term? That I was living large. That's what the term was. That I was living large. So I'm doing good. I'm good. Oh, Yeah, we have this young lady, that young lady, yeah. I really enjoyed both of the choirs, by the way. I really enjoyed the choirs. Mhm. I think the answer to your question is there were students on campus who had not been around African Americans, and for one thing, they wanted to know if my hair was like theirs, for instance. Um, or, they wanted to know about African Americans. Why was I able to speak English correctly? Would be a question. None of this made me angry, but the students on campus who had not been around African Americans or had only been around African Americans who were their servants had a different view or no view at all of what African Americans were like. So I could go to the dormitory and get my hair done because whether y'all know it or not, well, black people know since I have curly hair that once you wash it, it looks like white hair. And quite a few white men dived in my gene pool, obviously. So it's a little different. I do sometimes wonder, and I think we ought to pay attention because I say we are a human race. The darker your skin, the more challenges you may have. I think that is absolutely true. And mine is not very dark. So I may have less challenges than a person with dark skin and doesn't have curly hair. So pay attention, all of you, in the human race, that we all have something to give. Nobody's better than or worse than anybody else. And my grandmama Reynolds was half white. She had a white father, and we knew this. And she spent a lot of time telling me, just because you got curly hair don't mean you better than nobody else. And pretty is as pretty does. So if you encounter somebody different from you, remember that they're human, part of the human race, and treat them like that. Y'all know the golden rule? Treat them like they're human. Because we all individuals, we all have a talent. We want to find your talent. You're in school so we can find that talent that you have to give the world. And don't matter what you look like, you got a talent to give the world. You know, my son said he didn't want to go to college. What he wanted to do was go to Tech. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. He's doing good. He didn't have to go to Limestone College, but he did have to do something past high school. Yes. And so we could find his talent. He's the computer person, not me, the computer person. So I called him when I need something done with the computer. Did I answer your question, dear? Okay. Here's another one. How much time do we have? Okay. Wait a minute, I didn't hear all of your question. It's not easy to be black in America. I heard that part. It's difficult to be black and successful? Yes, I do. I think it's absolutely true. In my career with Clemson Extension Service, it took 25 years for me to get the promotion that I worked on for 15. And the first year I worked, I had a supervisor who was considered a white female, and she was 3 years older than me. After I worked 7 years, I thought, my supervisor retired, I thought it made all kind of logical sense for them to promote me to her position. Didn't happen. That's when I realized being black and female was the problem why it didn't happen. And so I started trying to do things so it would happen, so I could be a supervisor. Took 25 years, and when I did get promoted, they gave me the position that nobody else wanted because there were so many problems. Again, you got a work ethic. I whipped them into shape. 3 years later, we were doing good. Still, you got to do the work. You're gonna have, you know, sometimes, y'all, sometimes you go into the post office and the white male in front of you opens the door for a white lady, and then he slams the door in the black lady's face. Okay, fine. Maybe that's racism. Maybe he doesn't feel good. Maybe he didn't see you. I mean, it's not always racism that you are seeing. Sometimes it is. And if it is, it's the other person's problem. It ain't your problem. I don't have to educate nobody in here about racism, whether you call yourself black or you call yourself white. Because I told y'all human race. I said I met a Polish girl, and she was Polish because her last name has ski on it. I didn't consider her white, I considered her my friend. So we have to work on, blacks have to work on our suspicion of white people. Sometimes it is true that our suspicion is right, and sometimes it's not. It's just like driving. You're driving down the street and somebody jumps in front of you. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about getting where they're going. They cut you off? Okay, fine. They shouldn't have done it? You right? Don't be dead right. If you give everybody a chance to be your friend, that could happen. Yeah, it's hard. Racism is alive and well. I don't get into politics, but we see it, a lot of it in politics right now. However, we still got to, so my father-in-law said, go down to the college that I couldn't go to because there wasn't no black people there. And what happened? It's impossible. Don't no Negroes go there. What happened? I think they used to call me a Negro. I don't think I got to be white. So we just got to work at it. We just got to keep working at it. All of us.
Again, we're going to thank Dr. Reynolds. She has guests with her, and she told me who they were. And I can't remember. Please, if you will introduce your guests, and then we'll call upon Dr. Beloga for comments, and then we'll do some acknowledgement.
I'll make y'all stand up. Well, y'all already met my son. He's my oldest, middle, and baby child. And his first lady is here. Dr. Patricia McCarty. Stand up. She was a majorette along with me in high school. My my high school classmate, Willie Blanche. And you got to introduce your other, oh, Victoria. I want somebody to stand up, with that purple top on. Stand up and introduce yourself. I didn't know what Beverly's last name was.
Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you all. While Dr. Beloga is coming, I'd like for our mentors, our participants, all the Real Men Lead program participants, and everybody please stand. Some have to run out the class, and I thought that your practices were excused. I want everybody to see you guys. All right.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm not going to take a lot of time today because I believe I can't follow just what has transpired here. Dr. Reynolds, I just want to say thank you. There had to be a first, and you were an excellent first to follow, so thank you. And being a first in 1968 to now 55 years later, Limestone having a PBI designation, and the wonderful students that we have, the diversity, equity, and inclusion that we aspire to, it makes the whole institution rise. And so, again, thank you for being here, and thank you all for being here. It was a thoroughly enjoyable afternoon.
As my colleague, Ms. Scott, comes up, we'd like to again make a few acknowledgments and thank you all. We certainly want to thank Ms. Mason and our other colleagues in the Division of Student Success for everything that you all do and the very good support that we give to the students here at Limestone University. So we certainly thank you all. We want to thank our music department, Dr. Poovey, and others who were instrumental in the wonderful music and went to Dunton United Methodist Church on yesterday, where I was supposed to be with you all, and I apologize. I was on another program, but I had members of the church. When I lived here in Gaffney, we attended Dunton, and they called me before I could get home from my church talking about the wonderful performance and everything that you all did. So we certainly thank you all for representing the university. Ms. Scott.
Again, thank you all so much for your time. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge all faculty and staff, if you will stand at this time. It is always and indeed an honor and a pleasure to serve on this campus. It's been very phenomenal for me to hear individuals say once a saint, always a saint. But when I met Dr. Reynolds, I seen that she had on her blue and gold and noticed that once a saint, always a saint 55 years later. We appreciate you. We appreciate the pathway that you've made for us and made for students. it was important for us to let students and allow students to acknowledge where we are and the trajectory of Limestone 55 years later. We do have a significant aggregation of diversity here on our campus, which is a beautiful sight. I've been gifted the opportunity to serve in that area. I certainly appreciate every participant on this program today, and we honor everyone that is in this room. Please know that if there's ever anything as far as equity and inclusion that we can do on this campus to be of help to each one of you, we are here. We're here to serve. We're here to make sure that we continue to go forward. Hopefully, when you come back to see us again, that we've made steps forward again as we continue to do this every day. It is a journey. We recognize that as we are ending our Black History Month, but going over into Women History is pretty phenomenal. Dr. Beloga had to step out, but we are being led now at this university. We have almost an all-female leadership at this university, and that hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. We have a acting vice president or acting president, which is Dr. Beloga. We have a provost, interim. I'm sorry, she has transitioned to interim president, which is Dr. Beloga, and then we have a provost who is Dr. Wash. We have our associate vice provost, Ms. Stacy Mason, who's at the back of the room. I am in equity and inclusion, and then we have in our athletics department, we have an active individual that is standing in as our VP of academic athletics. That's a major change and shift for our university. We're here to commit to students that we're willing to change and willing to shift with time. If nothing changes, then nothing changes. So again, thank you all so much. I am ecstatic that you were able to connect with Dr. Reynolds again after a certain amount of time. This has been, every part of this day has connected to the point that we did what we were supposed to do today, and that's to honor you. You deserve this honor, and it is our pleasure that we were able to present it to you today.
Before we present a few gifts to our special guests, again, those of you who are athletes, we got your signature and your student sign-in. So I know someone said they had practice at 3 o'clock, but Dr. Beloga did excuse those, but as soon as you finish, you may leave. Psalms 139:14. I will praise thee, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelously are thy works, and that my skill knoweth right well. I think we've seen this in our special guests and the Black excellence that we've seen and heard here this afternoon. Again, we thank each and every one of you for your presence. Dr. Reynolds, if you'll come forward. We have a few gifts. Gift-bearing gifts. That's from the bookshop, a bookstore. And those are for you. We tried to get as much of your favorite color, yellow, into the bouquets as we possibly could, but we certainly appreciate everything that you do and how well you've represented your university. Thank you so very much.
Thank you again for your time and opportunity to come and spend with us today. We do not take that lightly. We appreciate all your guests that came with you today. She kept emailing, I'm gonna add one more person. Miss Scott, this is Miss Annette, I'm adding one more person. And we said the more the merrier, because we would love for us to embrace you as we embrace those that you bring along with you. Everyone have a wonderful afternoon. And again, thank you, Dr. Poovey. Thank you, everyone who is here with us this afternoon.
Students, if you want a picture, just come up front and hopefully
Absolutely.
she's gracious enough to get one. Thank you all.